Shoes. Recorded live.
A 1-2, a 1-2. Guard your girl boxing. Year in recap 2015. Where have you gone? We welcome in a new year. 2016 approaches us. And we're just going to recap everything that took place in 2015. This is Coltrane. Got my man R.O.D. Radada, Roberto Flack, my partners in crime. What's good? What's cracking, my dudes? Yo, yo, yo. Y'all out there?
Yo, yo.
What's good?
What's going on, man?
Well,
we are finally here. Yes, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Man.
Bye, Chip.
It's like, yo, listen, cuz it's like we won the Super Bowl. Like, people was high-fiving each other. It was crazy.
I was happy for y'all, trust me.
It was like, it was like the Death Star landed here, right? And, the Republic came, and, and the Sith, led by the lead Sith, Chip Kelly, took us under siege, man, and,
yeah,
the first responders came and, wiped him out, man. Good for Jeffrey Lurie and, good for the city, man, so we can move on. And the only bad part about it is he crippled the franchise and gave away all our talent.
Yeah, pretty much.
But this is a boxing show. We don't want to bore people with football. Just a little something we had to get off our chest to get things started, man. 2015, man, came and went.
Yeah, man. Can you believe that?
Kind of crazy, ain't it?
I mean, I think the story. I mean, there's a few stories. I mean, one major one, but I mean, I think this year, man. I mean, I think that the tagline for 2015, man, has just been like the influx of boxing has been like on a level we haven't seen in quite a long time, man. So it was quite a year.
Right.
A very eventful year.
No doubt.
A lot of fights materialized, and
Well, let's go back.
We're here.
Let's go back down memory lane real quick, because just a year ago, you and I was doing a year-end show, and Rigondeaux was fighting, I believe, on New Year's Eve, right? Was that the day he was fighting, or the day before? I couldn't remember the exact day.
It was New Year's Eve, yeah.
You and I was talking about Rigondeaux, hopefully signing with a major promotional company and finally getting his just due. And here we are a year later, and nothing has changed in that respect. We also sat there and talked about, would this finally be the year? Because remember, this was 2014 going into 2015. We also talked about, would this finally be the year that Pacquiao and Mayweather fight?
Right.
And voila.
Yeah.
It happened. It happened.
Yeah, man. I mean, like you said, man. I mean, it was just very eventful year. Fights happened that, at least in the sense of one calendar year in boxing, man. I mean, we got two quote unquote super fights. With Cotto Canelo and obviously Mayweather Pacquiao. But yeah, it is crazy how much like a year can really, really, I guess, open the doors for the following year. But like I said before, man, I mean, I think with the whole PBC and how much boxing we've been getting, on a regular basis, man. I mean, we've been spoiled, so to speak, man. I mean, I think we can count on like two hands barely how many weeks there were where we didn't have any boxing at all. I mean, I think there's even some boxing tonight.
No, it is.
As far as
it is.
On
and
Fox
definitely,
Sports,
I don't know. It's some Philadelphia fighters fighting tonight in Bethlehem,
wow.
PA. Right, it's a big card going on tonight. But to your point, and I see ROD just joined us.
What up?
What up, Radada? We just kind of went back to 2014 New Year's Eve around this time. Me and Roberto was talking about Rigondeaux. He was fighting on New Year's Eve over in China or Japan. I forget, somewhere in Asia.
Yeah, in Japan, right.
In Japan. And we thought this would be his breakout year, and obviously here we are a year later talking about the same thing we talked about a year before. What would be next for Rigondeaux. We also discussed the possibility of Mayweather-Pacquiao happening, and we all know what happened with that, So, I mean, the year went by so quick, but like Roberto said, just to kind of bring you up to speed, ROD, granted, it might not have been the best fights that people wanted to see, but we got a lot of boxing this year, like throughout this year, throughout this calendar. You want to elaborate on any of that, like as far as the year went, as far as boxing goes?
Yeah, in its totality, man, we did have, like, I think what happened was PBC lended to a lot of activity that we were able to have, in terms of fights. It may not have been the quality of fights that we had may not have been, the outcome may not have been how we liked it, the scrap might not have been how we liked it, but the activity was there. And I think that was good because there was a year, or there were times, man, where it's like it was like just like famine, when it came to boxing. And now we kind of came to a feast. And you know what? To be honest, it was partly because of what Al Heyman did with the PBC card. I mean, whether people want to disagree or agree, you end with the Peter Quillen fight. But I remember as early as, like Danny Garcia and those guys fighting in the beginning, So, that lended to a lot of activity this year. And obviously we had our major cards, Canelo Cotto, Pacquiao Floyd, the Triple G, thing. So, that kind of helped us out as well. So in terms of the events, but activity-wise, I'm pretty much, that's what we faced this year. We had a great year in terms of activity with boxing.
I agree with you. Very well stated, ROD. So just to kind of, let the people know what we're doing tonight, we got an action-packed show tonight. And we want to first and foremost thank everybody out there that's, been supporting us, Guard Your Grow Boxing. We've been blessed, to have an addition to our family, Roberto Flack, holding us down. So we're just appreciative. We do what we like to do, what we love to do, and that's talk about the sweet science of boxing with you guys. And again, I just want to thank everybody for supporting us. So we're going to recap 2015. It's going to be a fun, at the same time, informative show. We got a few different categories we're going to touch upon. As far as what was our best prospect, knockout of the year, fighter of the year, things of that nature we're going to touch upon. But before we get into that, I did want to touch upon, everybody know Guard Your Grow Boxing is a mash show, mix up of hip hop and boxing. It kind of go hand in hand with us, and I just wanted to collaborate with my brothers here and get their opinions or their take on what was their best album of the year, their hip hop album. We had a lot of albums we released this year, a lot of mixtapes, so it's not really albums like it used to be. And I just want to get their take on, what they got, well, it's not CDs anymore, what they got downloaded on their phone. That's where everybody download their music at now, and their music player app, or whatever you got there in your phone. So, I mean, what's good, my dudes? What was the head and shoulders above everything else album of the year, if you have to pick just one?
Well, let me say this real fast. Roberto is dealing with a loaded deck because it's something he deals with, as well as he's doing his art. But me, I just sum it up like this real fast. Give me my minute. We were all waiting for, our buddy Kendrick Lamar third album. Which the first one to me was great, almost like a Tribe Called Quest type of vibe. And the third one, to Pimp a Butterfly didn't disappoint either. But it's so crazy because what I also downloaded, which was good, were three more, which I also could be in that mix. And that was like the Games double CD, as well as the Pusha T album. And, you know, an artist that people don't, you know, haven't heard of, but, you know, that Freddie Gibbs album wasn't as bad either. But if I had to choose one of them out of everyone, it would be To Pimp a Butterfly. And it's one of those albums where it's like, you know, I look at albums when I think of classics, when I think of album of the year. You know, obviously it's done well against his peers, but can you bottle it up and send it, you know, over the river, through the woods, and, you know, ocean, and somebody else will be able to appreciate it? And I think that Pimp the Butterfly album has that type of feel to it. That's just my opinion. I mean, I do like the Game album. It's in my car now. I do love the Pusha T album. I do love the Freddie Gibbs album. But, you know, that push that To Pimp the Butterfly would be the one for me.
Okay. Very well stated, my dude, and diplomatically put. What about you, Roberto?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the same boat. I mean,
and let me just couch this real quick for Roberto, and then we'll let you go. Roberto is, you know, he has many trades that he does, but one of his passions is music, you know, and he DJs and he makes music. So I know this is kind of difficult to him to just give one, you know, being a person that kind of does it, you know, as his profession, so to speak. But go ahead, my dude.
No, yeah, I mean, there were a couple albums this year. I mean, from J. Cole's album to, I mean, yeah, even Game's album. You know, both of them. You know, and the thing with me too is obviously, you know, a lot of times I look at the production side of things first, and with the To Pimp a Butterfly, I did that, and like from the beginning, just hearing the production. From where Kendrick went for the album that had, you know, swimming pools and those type of records that had a lot more radio appeal, like this album went like really left field from what people would expect a sophomore album to be, as far as, you know, when you think about what Nas did with Illmatic. Not that I would compare Kendrick's first album like that, but when you think of like the route that he went for, it was still a dope album for the hip hop connoisseur, but, you know, it had a mainstream little touch to it, and, you know, that was obviously with the help of Trackmasters, you know, with helping with the production side of things. But with this album, man, like he really went against the grain as far as the production. And then I don't know if you guys knew this, but like Bilal was one of the executive producers of the album, and Bilal's done stuff with like The Roots.
I never knew that. I didn't know
Jay
that.
Dilla. He's on a lot of the records. So when I heard the production in general, I was like, wow. He had like funk in there. I love like 70s funk. And then they had kind of like an R&B swing with These Walls. And then like you hear the concept of that record, it's just like, yo. So the thing about these days, man, is like there's not a lot of albums that are really put together in a way where you could tell, like when Gang Starr took like 2, 3, 4 years to put out a record. It was for a reason, because it's, you know, they took time to just put together a body of work that made sense. And like you listen to this, you going back and listening to just the content, I'm like, yo, like it was real ballsy for him to make a record like that. And to me, man, like it's no surprise that it's got like 11 Grammy nominations. So I think that's how many it has. But that's my album of the year, man. Like hands down. To the point where like I'm still listening to it, you know, and that's like a sign that you know, when the album came out like in March, right? So I mean, the rotation is there, man. It's a very sonically well done album. I love the production, and I think to me it just stands overall the album. The J. Cole album to me is like a close second.
Okay. All right. Well, there we have it, man. a lot of great albums out there. Like Ride or Die said, man, it was funny. Mine was a last hurdle, and I'm not gonna get into too much because like you guys all broke. A lot of us, we got kind of the same taste, and we all enjoy most of the same type of albums. But I'm gonna throw Pusha T's late fourth quarter run, which I'm really enjoying. It's great production. Timbaland's all over the album. Kanye's on there. Production is real good, and lyrically it's nice. So, so I'm gonna go with Pusha T. It's only 10 songs in classic LP fashion, so I respect that. So, but anyway, we got a lot of boxing to get into. A lot of things took place this year. One of the things, and we talked about it, in the opening, about the biggest story in 2015 for boxing. And, I don't think we needed to set this up. We know what it is. Everybody know what it is. Not just in boxing, but it was the biggest story in all of sports. And that was Pacquiao versus Mayweather. We talked about it last year, coming into this year, the year before that. We had hour shows about this fight taking place. Granted, the hype didn't live up to, what we thought it would live up to. That attributes more to Mayweather probably than it does to Pacquiao. But I just want you guys to just real quick, just a quick synopsis, and we could be brief about it, just to reflect on the Mayweather, the biggest story of 2015, arguably in sports, with Mayweather-Pacquiao. What did it do for the sport? Do you think was a negative? Was it a positive? I just want to get you guys' opinion on, what you thought the impact had on the sport.
I think it's kind of both. I think it was positive and negative in the sense of, you can't argue the fact that the fight made around like $500 million. So like, it shows you still that the pulse that the public has for boxing, for a fight that can be made at that level. You know what I mean? So it's like it still goes to show you that boxing's still a special type of sport where, you can get people from just all walks of life just tuned in for, an hour or whatever the telecast is, to watch, 36 minutes of boxing. But I think going into the fight, man, we were all hyped, even though I think a lot of us too had in the back of our heads were like, this is 5 years later, let's not get ahead of ourselves. And I think maybe that's what transpired in the fight. At the same time, I'm somebody that's saying, like, you can't really knock Floyd too much because, we didn't really see much of a different Floyd. Pacquiao's different story than the whole shoulder situation. It kind of, it was for the Mayweather fans, they loved it. Don't get me wrong, but I think for the general sports fans, I don't think there's people that are talking about that fight in a way where, they're going to be watching it years from now, but that's not like a knock on Floyd as far as, how the fight transpired. But I just think it didn't live to the hype of like a Leonard Hagler type of fight or, like people were expecting, I guess, but maybe shouldn't have. But it is what it is, man. It just, we finally got it, and that's what we got.
Oh, D.
What were we expecting? It's one of those things, man. No, it's just, what were we expecting? I think that the media made this. It's a shame, man, how the media, like Sleep said, makes it smoke and mirrors. So they think every fight is supposed to be like Tyson and Lewis or Tyson and Holyfield, or, you're going to get a quick knockout like Tyson and Spinks. Like, don't get your, get your popcorn ready. Don't even stop. Don't go to the bathroom. Just pee on yourself because a knockout's going to happen. You're going to miss it. And what you guys wind up falling into, you guys mean a lot of casual fans, you wind up falling into the power of the media. I think that all of us knew. We've been trying to tell you that this fight was going to be pretty much an academic fight where Floyd's not going to really engage him and let Pacquiao do what he does best. So in terms of, like, disappointing, this fight wasn't disappointing to me. I mean, shoulder or not, if Pacquiao had two healthy shoulders, by the way, I watched that fight again, and he was doing, like, some mean combinations in the beginning, but I'll leave that one alone. And Freddie Roach even went on record to say, like, yo, he lost. Like, there's been no way that he would have beat Floyd. Like, he lost. So at the end of the day, everybody knew this going in. Like, everybody. And I just didn't understand, like, when, you know, round 12 came, it came to a situation, oh, he's running, oh, he's this. Like, have you guys seen the other 48 fights? Like, really, have you guys watched the other 48 fights? I mean, so to me, it wasn't really like a disappointment. I think that, you know, it's sort of like, you know, it's sort of like, I'll make it brief after this. It's sort of like, you know, we crown this kid we like who may be, let's just say he's 5'4", and we make him our slam dunk champion. But then when he goes out and he tries to dunk, well, you know what he can do. When he goes out and tries to dunk, you know, he can't dunk. And you already know what was hitting for. You knew that this kid couldn't dunk. Why are you crowning him champion? And I think it's the same way here. Like, you guys crowned this the event of the decade. It was going to be this, it was going to be that. But you already knew who was involved in it. It was Floyd Mayweather, who was pretty much academic in what he did. So, to me, you know, I guess my question is going back. Are we talking about the disappointment of the year, or are we just talking about, you know, that particular event?
No. We didn't. No, that was just the only reason I brought it up because it was such an impactful moment, good or bad, for the sport. You know, this was, you know, they covered it on ESPN more than they covered the Super Bowl. You know,
yeah,
so.
No,
and that's why I was only asking, like, you guys. I want to get you guys' personal opinion on the impact it had. You know, what did you think? You know,
yeah, it was very impactful. I mean, it brought people together. It got views. It did everything. It just wasn't, the outcome wasn't what everybody expected. You know, everybody went to the movie theater, and you always hear me say this. They wanted snakes on the plane, and they got Amadeus.
They got Amadeus.
Yeah. That's exactly what they got, man. So that's, you know, there you have it. They want to Die Hard. They want to Die Hard, and they got the Notebook.
They got the Notebook, right?
I like that. I like that all day. Real quick. Let me real quick. Give me one bar on this. Pacquiao Mayweather retiring. Good or bad for the sport?
Good.
I mean, good.
You know?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. I mean, you know, why do we need? You know, we were talking about a movie, No Country for Old Men. You know, why do we need to see, you know, old people? And I'm not saying old like in terms of age, but just the same old people do the same old things. Like, we know academically what's going to happen. So just let the new crop of people come on, man. And, you know, you can be on Instagram and do your thing, and, you know, and whatever that is, you know. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with Pacquiao retiring. That's what he needs to do. He was halfway into politics anyway, and, you know, with you know, his relationship with the Lord, man, you know, I think that you know, he really needs to, you know, solidify that, man. I think that these guys should just go on and just allow people to, you know, champion the sport, man, that you know, that could really take it further.
All right, well put. Thanks, my dudes. I appreciate that. And there you have it. Mayweather, Pacquiao. We're ready to move on. We're ready to turn the page. Nobody's bigger than the sport. I mean, you know, 15 years ago, just to conclude what my guys are saying, I could forward an article to everybody listening out there when people thought boxing was going to die when De La Hoya retired. And we all know what happened after that. Pacquiao and Mayweather came about, you know. So the sport never dies. It just continues to live on, and the same thing will happen 10 years from now. So we got a bunch of different categories we're going to get into to kind of recap
the year in. My dudes, Rotterdam, Roberto Flack, broke down some different categories, and we're just going to kind of, touch upon these categories and, give a brief description why and, just kind of move on to the next category from there. And before we wrap up the show tonight, we're going to finally give I know some people are asking, we're going to finally give out our pound-for-pound list on who we believe as Guard Your Girl Boxing, not some of these other, and no disrespect to the other media outlets and publications, but we're going to give our own pound-for-pound list. We're going to get into a couple of these different categories that we nominated fighters for 2015. One of the categories I wanted to we're going to touch upon in the first category is the upset, the biggest upset in 2015. Again, there's been a lot of boxing, so forgive us, folks, if we missed anything. Because it's so many fights that when I was going through this, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of boxing on this year. So there is a good chance that we may miss something, and that's okay. But we're just going to give our opinion. My dudes, Rotterdam, Roberto Flack, they're going to touch upon what they thought was the biggest upset in 2015, and of course qualify why they believe so. So I'll start with you, Roberto. What's your thoughts here, my dude?
I mean, to me, it's kind of tough, I mean, there were some fights where I was going in and I might have not picked the right winner, but it wasn't so much of like an upset. But I mean, honestly, man, Tyson Fury beating Klitschko in the manner that he did, man, I mean, I think is somewhat of an upset to me. Because going into the fight, I mean, I didn't give Fury a chance based on how I thought Klitschko was going to fight. But how the fight went down, how dominant, even though, granted, it wasn't so much of an authoritative, Tyson Fury who was on attack mode. I mean, he just fought, his fight and managed to beat Klitschko in a way that I don't think anybody's beaten him before, and not only that, but, he kind of shakes up the division. So, to me, I'm kind of leaning towards that, I mean, there's been some close fights, man, but, I mean, that's kind of the one that, to me, sticks out as far as, when we look at the landscape.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good one. I didn't even think about That's what I'm saying. It was so many fights this year that that could qualify in this category. You know what I mean? And then upsets can be subjective, too, because you have fights where somebody thought the guy had a chance, but, the guy, then most people thought, the vast majority thought the fighter X was going to lose to the favorite fighter Y. But that's a good one, right. Roberto. That's a good one. ROD, what did you have in mind?
Well, I have two. I mean, the one thing, the obvious one is the Tyson Fury one, because, again, you're talking about someone that was dominant for years, years. He had a crazy reign. And, like, so much dominant that, I didn't even go home and watch the fight. I just said I'll watch it on replay. I know he's going to, here's no offense, but, Steve, who's a friend of the show, dropped, Tyson Fury and gave him trouble, even though Steve wanted to get knocked out. But, I'm like, he should pretty much have his way with it. Klitschko should pretty much have his way with it. But, again, can never play the game. This person beat this person, that person beat that. So this is what's supposed to happen. And it didn't happen that way. And, I found out via text in the mall, from Coltrane, what happened. I just couldn't believe it. But that wasn't, because I was going to come back. But really, to me, the upset of the year, to me, that we can talk about is Aaron Martinez over Devin Alexander. I mean, it's funny because
done a lot.
Yeah, it's funny because you look at it and you say to yourself, wow, you know what? Here's, we talk about academic again. It's going to be that key word, that something should really happen because of this should happen. You know, Devin Alexander is more poised. Nope, that didn't happen. And, you know, now we're talking about Devin Alexander, man, got 1 foot, you know, out of boxing, man. Like, you know, he's just basically, you know, getting beat by that type of competition, man. So, you know, to me, that was really shocking. I was like, really? Like, wow. So that would be my 2. But the obvious one was Tyson Fury over Klitschko. I mean, it was the worst fight ever. But the Aaron Martinez fight was really shocking.
Right. That was a pretty shocking fight.
And let's not mention that he was robbed against Guerrero too. But you know, I'll leave that one alone.
Right.
I mean, he was just like, listen, man, I'm not gonna be denied this fight. Y'all can forget that.
Yeah, there was. I mean, the thing about it is that there was a lot of fights out there that took place. Like, it's hard because we had a lot of boxing this year. So, but I agree. Like, if I had to pick one, I probably would go with the Tyson Fury because Klitschko, they've been dominant for so long, and I don't think anybody really gave Tyson Fury a chance to beat Klitschko. Another one was, now I don't know, that's what I'm saying. Some of these could be subjective, but we had one recently in the heavyweight division where a lot of people was picking, us included, we picked Baba Jennings to beat Luis Ortiz, and we all know what happened there. Now you could say it's an upset in the respect that nobody thought that he would get knocked out the way he did. I mean, that was a pretty brutal fight the way it ended, but we had a lot of boxing and a lot to choose from. So I guess for the sake of this discussion, to conclude it and move on to the next category, we'll go with the Klitschko and Tyson Fury one. So, hit us up about it, though. If anybody begs to differ, we'd love to create some dialogue about it. Our next category we're going to move to is round of the year. And what we mean by that category was, what was one of the best rounds that took place in the sport of boxing this year? Again, we had a lot of rounds, so there's a lot to choose from here, guys. So, I don't know who want to go first at it, but, feel free.
Yeah, we could go with the Danny Jacobs, Sergio Mora round 1.
Mm.
That could be a good one. But the obvious one, and Roberto, he's our interpreter, is the Francisco Vargas versus Tashiki Meliora. Am I saying that right, Roberto?
Takashi.
Takashi. Mura, round 9. That was, and that was my first opportunity to get to see both of those. I mean, just the ebb and flows, and then, what was happening in that fight, man. That thing was, I can't even explain it, man. That was shocking to me. I think it was shocking to Golden Boy. It was shocking to everybody that saw that. So, you guys got to actually YouTube and go look that up. But that was mine.
Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, it was that, and then, you look at the Quillen Jacobs round where the...
that's where I thought y'all was going. That's where, when Rydal was like, where I'm going, that's where I thought you guys were going. But go ahead.
That round of the year?
Fight.
Go ahead.
What did you say? So you thought that I was going to say Quillen?
Well, the only reason why I thought you was going to go there because it's fresh. You know how, like, when you do these type of things, what's fresh is normally, the quickest response you kind of go to. You know what I mean? It's like what they call it, being a prisoner of the moment.
Right.
But I'm not saying that is, but that just, I couldn't get that out of my mind. It's like the most recent horror movie that you saw. You know what I mean? Like, I just can't get that vision out of my mind. Go ahead, Roberto. My bad.
I'm sorry, Roberto.
I think with the Vargas Miura fight, it was just that round was kind of like a culmination of like the entire fight. Right. So it's like where in some situations, like one round might be like the highlight of the fight. I mean, it might have not been if the rest of the fight wasn't what it was. But I think just the outcome, I think where we thought the fight was going ended up not happening, and things got turned around so quick. I mean, to me, I think it's somewhat of a no-brainer when it comes to, like, round of the year. You know, I mean, there's so many, like, exclamations that you can put on that round.
All right. That's all good. So that concludes that. So we'll move on to the next one. So just to recap real quick, we did upset of the year. We just did round of the year. So next we're going to do prospect of the year. Now this one is big, folks, because prospect is kind of tomorrow. So by us naming who's the next, you know, this up and coming prospect, it kind of tells a story about where will we be next year around this time? Will that prospect evolve and, you know, turn into, you know, on its way to something, you know, as they say, from pretender to contender. So this is kind of a big category here, the prospect one, because, you know, again, this is our future, this is our roots, our farm here. So, Rada Da, I'll start with you on this one. Out of the talent pool that's out there, who are you hitching the wagon to?
You know, it's interesting because, you know, a lot of, you know, most people will probably say, hey, you know what? Excuse me. I like, you know, I'll just go right with it. You know, I like Earl Spence Jr.
Yeah,
I like Earl Spence Jr. Yeah. You know, I'll make no qualms about it. You know, I like him a whole lot. He's been in those trenches. You know, Felix. Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting his name. Lightweight. Felix Verdell. Yep. Yeah, I like him. I know a lot of people like Doc was kind of disappointed on last time he fought, but he looked pretty good too. But you know, Earl Spence is definitely up there for me.
So let me just ask you this real quick before I move on to Roberto. So do you have any concerns, or do you feel positive that you think that he can, you know, kind of carry the mantle on, so to speak? And when I say carry the mantle, I don't mean like be the next Mayweather. You know, me and Roberto, we had did a show like a couple of months ago. We talked about some of these prospects, and you know, once they, you know, step it up in competition, you know, do you have any concerns? You know, I mean, obviously you're going to have concerns with young fighters, but I just want to know: are you feel like completely confident in Earl Spence that you don't see any things that can, like, any bad habits that could potentially come back to haunt him later?
You know what? I'm gonna tell you something. What's interesting about it? The only thing that I see with Earl Spence really hurting him is Earl Spence Jr. rather is, and you guys, you know, could agree or disagree. You know, it's just with any prospect. Number one, we're going to have to figure out, you know, who is Earl Spence. So when we look at a prospect, let's just go back again. When we look at a prospect, let's look at it from any sport. When we look at a prospect, you know, we kind of say, okay, you know what, this guy could, you know, he's on our radar right now. Here's a guy that could really turn out to be something great. But we all know, just like, you know, we all watch basketball here, we all watch football, you know, there's sometimes, man, we crown these guys king, and they wind up not being anything, you know. So I guess what happens is it all determined on how he develops in the future. And the only way we're going to be able to see that is when he steps up against better competition. So for me, as of right now, when I look at it, when those little PVC cards and the rumor sparring sessions, I'm like, you know what? Here's a guy that could really make some noise. Now, I won't be able to totally say that this guy is going to be the next face in boxing until we see him with tougher competition. I think that's for any prospect. You know, we got to see this guy against tougher competition to say, you know what, here's who we're going to basically, you know, put the house on.
No, I mean, and that's what me and Roberto talked about a couple of weeks ago. And it's a slippery slope that we just got to wait and see, and that's why we're projecting it now. And, you just got to be objective looking at everything, when you hit your wagon to these guys, just expect young people make mistakes. And Mayweather is Mayweather for, Bernard, all those guys, they're special, and special guys come around once in a lifetime. And some of these guys, I just see some things, that could potentially be a Kahana. But we got plenty of time to get into that, some other shows. Like right now, we're just talking about our prospects. So switching gears over to my man Roberto.
Yep.
Who you looking out? Who you liking out there, my dude? Like going forward, man.
I mean, just like it with everybody else. I mean, I really like Errol Spence. I like Felix Verdejo. I think for 2016, I think like this year was in a sense like we knew they were prospects, but they were kind of in a way we knew about them the year before. We were basically just I guess seeing them mature as fighters, and I'm assuming this coming year we're going to see them against some names, that we'll say, okay, that's a nice notch on their belt. But I think one guy we got to look at, and we think about Gennady Golovkin being a guy who doesn't have many options at middleweight, and some of these guys maybe don't want to fight him or whatever. One guy we got to look at is a fighter that caught my eye a bit on Showbox. I think he's a Haymon fighter, and it's Anton Douglas. Mm-hmm. He's an up and coming middleweight. Really sharp, man. I mean, obviously he's still in the early stages, but I think he, if he matures properly, man. I mean, I think he can be a big player at middleweight. So I mean, I think he's a guy we definitely got to look out for in 2016. And we seen what happened with Jacobs and Quillen, and now Jacobs is at the helm under the Haymon brand. So there's going to be fighters in that division, whether you're talking about Erislandy Lara or maybe the Charlos moving up. Things might get interesting, but keep an eye on Anton Douglas, because I think he's a guy that we might be seeing a lot of possibly in 2016.
Cool, man. Good stuff. Good dialogue, and people take notes on these names, because these names will be maybe a force to be reckoned with going forward. Before we do move on to the next question, one last question I do want to ask, because this is kind of important, because you remember years ago we talked about Andre Ward, and before Andre Ward had all this promotional stuff, we talked about how they brought him along slowly, and it turned out to pay dividends for him in the Super 6 tournament. How do you guys feel about, and just give me a quick one-sentence answer on this, about bringing the fighters along slowly, like kind of how they did with Andre Ward, bringing him along and then putting him into the Super 6. Do you agree with that, or do you think that let's test the water now to see what we got kind of reaction should be done with these guys?
I think.
Go ahead, Roberto.
No, I mean, I think one thing I give Top Rank credit for is like how they brought fighters up, like from the from the 80s to the 90s and the early 2000s, where there's times where it's a crapshoot. You got to take a chance. Because there's a point where you can keep giving these fighters features and features and features until there's a point where, like, okay, well, in order for you to get here, you got to get past this gate, and that's, obviously, for the casual listeners, that's where the whole gatekeeper, term comes from. But I think with these fighters, man, I mean, I think we've seen more recently how some fighters sometimes are being held to a certain or put on a certain pedestal, and we see them in fights that are kind of proving grounds, right?
Right.
And they get knocked off. They get knocked off that pedestal really quick, man. And I think more recently we've been seeing that. But I think at the end of the day, the fighter's always going to come out. you know, because we've seen some of the best fighters from Floyd to Cotto to Oscar to B-Hop and all these guys that have been in fights against fighters that maybe weren't superstars or maybe weren't super elite guys, but they were proving grounds. And some of them, you know, like in Cotto's case where he got knocked down by, you know, Ricardo Torres, came back and won by knockout. We haven't seen a lot of that for some of these newer fighters where they've had to come back from adversity and try to snag a win. You know, so I think at the very end of the day, man, I mean, it's kind of like when you think of, you know, we talk about Errol Spence and Felix Verdejo, both of them, there's going to have to be a crapshoot at some point where you're like, okay, if you get past this guy, you're reaching a certain level when you talk about high-level fights and high-level money. And, you know, you don't want it to happen too fast, but at some point there is a risk factor. You know, I mean, it comes with the territory.
No, very well stated. All right, so before we conclude our last two categories, there is one other category that we got to touch upon, and of course we'll say the fight of the year and fighter of the year as our last two. But we got to talk about what the people love, and shout out to Big Mike. They love knockouts. You know, people love knockouts. Knockouts is what sell tickets. You know, although we adore and love the science. You know, home runs, passing yards, touchdowns. This is what people come to pay their money to see. And then, you know, people love the home run hits, the knockouts. So I want to know from you guys, and there were some good ones this year, and I even touched upon one particular fight that just took place. What was your best knockout for 2015?
You want to do it? You want to head that up, Ryder? Dad?
Yeah, it had to be Holly Holmes over Ronda Rousey. Let me start playing.
I knew you was going there. You know what's funny?
Hey, yo,
I wanted to say Ronda for last because I knew he was going to go there with it. I was waiting for the drop.
Nah, you know what, man? No.
Yo, I think that's honorable mention. Like at the
end. Right. Maybe we should have called it the Ronda Rousey Award. Maybe we need to call it that going forward.
Yeah.
Hey, Coach, real fast, I don't want you to forget about the robbery of the year, too.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I got you.
But I'm going to just make it brief so we can just continue on with the other three categories. It would just be Kirkland versus Canelo. I mean, it was just for obvious reasons. Here's a guy that just, you know, went to Texas and, you know, he just wiped the floor with him. But what was interesting was, and I keep going back to this, when Canelo hit him, man, he still had the wherewithal to dip the punch. And I was like, what in the world? And Kirkland was just on the floor like somebody just threw a bag of chips on the floor. Boom. Man. I'm like, dang, man. I'm like, man, you know, you ever drop chips off the counter, you just hit the floor, it just fluffy, you just hit the floor. That's how you hit the ground. I'm like, dang. So that was really my knockout of the year for obvious reasons. Go YouTube it, Canelo versus Kirkland.
Berto?
Yeah, that was mine as well. I mean, I think you were mentioning as far as like a fight recently. I don't know if you were hinting at the heavyweight fight that took place between Luis Ortiz and Brian Jennings. That was a very close second to me. Shout out to Brian Jennings and the whole nine. I just think the way the Canelo knockout of Kirkland happened, and, you know, like, great way to put it, ROD. It was just, I mean, one of those knockouts, man, that is just like, you know, on all these different highlight reels where when you hit World Star, you know you've you've hit
World
it.
Star,
World Star, yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's one of those moments. But I mean, yeah, that was a vicious knockout. I think that would likely win knockout of the year.
Now, Ryder, perfect segue. He brought up a category that I actually slipped by me on my notes, which was, and this is, you cannot talk about boxing. It almost goes hand in hand, and a lot of terms that you hear in today's sport come from boxing. Styles make fight.
That was a robbery. We got robbed. That term started in boxing. That's where it came from, because it was boxing is a judged sport. So, people felt they got robbed if the judges robbed them. So you can't talk about boxing without talking about robberies. So I just got to start off with this. I'll go with you, Roberto. What was your biggest robbery of 2015 in the sport?
I mean, to keep it home, for y'all, man. I mean, we got to talk about the Cunningham versus Glasgow.
Mm-hmm.
No,
this was. I mean, I remember we talked about this, and we were saying like,
good one.
He's due for a win, man. Especially like what the fight meant as far as like I think it was the IBF Eliminator or something along those lines, and it was just like another one of these cases where it's just like, what fight are you watching? What are those?
What are those?
Yeah, what are those? It's crazy. But yeah, I mean, that was. I mean, there's that. I mean, that would be my number one. But I mean, even as recently as the Walter Sosa fight, where I had Walter's clearly winning. Now, mind you, we talked about how, this was Walter's first time at 135, and we didn't see that devastating puncher like we did, like, when he was fighting featherweights. But at the same time, when that fight was over, I was like, yeah, okay, well, clear win. But just the outcome, I'm like, are you serious? But, I mean, the Cunningham fight to me was just, like, ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a good one. I like that one. That was a good find on your part. ROD.
Yeah, that Cunningham fight was definitely the obvious. I've said it before, man, that Steve Cunningham has become the Glenn Johnson of the heavyweight division. There are about 9 different losses that Glenn Johnson had in his career that could have went either way. Minus the Bernard Hopkins loss, but
he said that was the only fight he ever really lost. I mean, prior to his recent losses, but back then when he had like 8 losses, that's the only time he really lost was the Bernard
fight. Yeah. So like I think Steve is in that same category, but since my brother Roberto, picked that that robbery of the year, I'll go with one that happened earlier, or maybe it happened later, but it was Jean Pascal versus Gonzalez. I thought.
Oh yeah.
Just the way Gonzalez was in agony after he fight. Like they were just talking about all he went through, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all he went through to get to that point. And you just heard him like just squealing like with emotion and agony, like no, like you heard his corner. He was just talking about, yo, man, we just put so much like time, effort, energy, like they all do, to get cheated like this, man. And it's just, my heart really broke for him, man. I was like, dang, man, because you kind of knew that Pascal lost that fight. Everybody knew he lost that fight.
He knew he lost.
That was just so. He knew he lost. I mean, it was just bad,
let me just say something about him real quick, and I'm glad you brought this up, because I was reading some stuff early on Twitter, and this is a perfect segue to my mind, if you will. Pascal, he's like one of the luckiest dudes to be getting these fights that he's getting. First of all, he doesn't deserve a rematch with Kovalev, first and foremost.
Nope.
That fight was one-sided, pretty much. That was not. It was a 9-3, 10-2. I don't know. I can't even see 8-4, but at most 9-3 fight. A 9-3 fight doesn't deserve a rematch. I mean, it was a one-sided fight, and then I forgot all about the Gonzalez fight. I forgot about that. So he's basically skated this year with fights, and mainly because the Bell Center up in Canada is a hotbed for boxing. Same way with Triple G when he fought Lemieux, and he's using that. I mean, business is business. He's using that to his advantage. And Kovalev doesn't have nowhere to go, so he's taking the fight. Well, anyway, I don't want to get all into off subject, but I'm glad you brought that up, Rada, because I was just thinking about him earlier, talking about Pascal.
Yeah, and that's really it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So, and I'm glad. Thanks for reminding me about that. So, our last 2 categories is kind of like the most
the biggest categories, the most important one, and that's Fight of the Year and Fighter. Obviously, we'll say Fighter of the Year is for last, but the Fight of the Year, another one of these subjective things. I am a beholder because man, we had a lot of good fights, Now a lot of them ended, with some questionable stoppages. I should say, not decisions too, but we had a lot of what some people will call premature stoppages this year. So I don't know if it kind of, took the winds out of the sails. Was it bittersweet, some of these fights, because of the way they ended? But with that being said, out of everything that you guys seen this year, if you had to pick one, what would it be?
Ragnikov and Matisse.
Wow. Right off the bat, how about that?
Yep.
Roberto?
It's a tie. I mean, it's that fight and the Francisco Vargas and Takashi Miura fight.
I mean, both were great. Both was action. And I like how you put it, Roberto, early in the show. You said, I want to give it a round of the year, but it was kind of, the tempo was like that the whole fight.
Yeah. I mean,
that's the thing, man. There was so many good fights this year.
There were, man. I mean, I mean those.
I know we're missing some. I mean, there was a lot of good fights.
We're missing though too. We're missing another one, man. That Matisse Postal fight could have made upset of the year as well. But I'll
right.
I digress from that. Yeah, I'll digress with that because, like you said, Roberto, there's so many different things when you look back, and I'm sure as we, as Roberto, Coltrane, myself, as we go back, we'll probably try to put some of this stuff
people
up
gonna
on
be
our
hitting
site.
us up. Like I guarantee you, tomorrow people gonna tell us, and I want people to do that. I like the interaction from people because, again, it's all subjective. It's not right or wrong. It's all about what's in our memory bank. What did we see this year in 2015 that we thought was a great fight? And I mean that's what it comes down to.
I mean, even for when we talk about recapping, this is obviously the 2015 recap, man. I mean, even some of these PBC fights, man. I mean, not like main events or what have you. I mean, there were a couple fights, man, that I was just they were exciting fights. It's just I mean, yeah, it's a lot to pick from, man. I mean, there were a lot of good fights this year.
You had Badu Jack that came on the scene this year. In 2015.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He snatched a few.
A guy
year.
that I was kind of like that. I mean, I still don't put him super high, but at the same time, he impressed me a bit this year. He kind of showed me some different, I guess, facets of his game that I was like, all right, well, this will be interesting.
How about James DeGale? He came on the scene this year.
Him too. I mean, even the fight with him and Butte, man. I mean, Butte to me, in a way, almost in a way, kind of impressed me. I mean, I don't want to say more than DeGale. I mean, DeGale clearly won the fight, but Butte actually came to fight. He wasn't really sitting down or laying down for DeGale. But I mean, again, that's another situation where those two could potentially fight for 2016. But I mean, yes, they both. Two the best super middleweights in the world, right? Minus Andre Ward.
Well, stuntman Danny Wheeler, who that's what I'm calling him now. We got to get him back in the ring, man.
Man.
We got to get him back, man. It's he's one of the best fighters in the world, and he's not even in
And shout out to Ride or Die, who's a big, shout out to Ride or Die, who's been a big Andre Ward supporter.
Yeah, I am, man, and it's crazy because I'm going to tell you something. If we ever had a category, and I'll shut up, if we ever had a category for disappointment of the year, it wouldn't be Pacquiao Mayweather. It would be Andre Ward. Career.
How about that?
Yeah.
How about that, man? So that's that's going to be on. We're going to do a pessimist. I got a new topic I want to do in 2016, like a pet peeve topic, where something that's just bothering you, and I want to bring that in. So we'll further elaborate on that
and our first new show in the new year. All right, man. So drum roll for the main one. Now, I'm gonna qualify this one because I've been looking around on the different sites out there, and again, I don't want to get into bashing people because everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and there's been like 4 names that's been popping up as far as Fighter of the Year is concerned. And I'm going to throw it out there to you guys because I know that one of these guys is one of your Fighters of the Year, but it's been 4 names. The first name is the obvious name, and that's Floyd Mayweather. Second name is the obvious name, and that's Triple G. The third one is another obvious name that's been popping up, and that's Roman Gonzalez. Now, this fourth name, I don't know. This one's a little tricky, but I guess I can kind of see it, and that's Canelo Alvarez. So, all right, two-part here. You tell me who doesn't belong in that group, and then you can tell me your Fighter of the Year out of those 4 names that I just mentioned. Whoever wants to go first.
Well, you put Roman Gonzalez, you put Floyd Mayweather, you put Canelo, and who was the other person?
Triple G.
Triple G.
Mm-hmm. Well, do they all belong?
They all listen. They all belong in their own little way. Let's just say. I don't think that we can basically take one off. I mean, the people that don't know who Roman Gonzalez is are going to say take him off. The people who don't like
now, the Titanic is sinking. The raft only can fit 3 people.
All right, so if you got to fit 3 people, I know you're going to laugh. Well, I tell you this. You said it was Triple G, Canelo, Floyd, right?
Yeah.
And Roman Gonzalez, right?
No doubt.
And
those are the 4. Roman Gonzalez. I got you. Just recap.
So 4 people, right?
Uh-huh.
There's 4 people. Only 3 can fit.
Only 3 can fit. We only got room for 3.
Well, then if one of them got to go, then it's. I mean, I hate to say it, but you're forcing my hand. There had to be Roman Gonzalez, and I mean only because we've us diehards know about him, but so can we honestly say we've seen all his fights? We've seen more Triple G fights. We've seen more Triple G fights than we've seen more Roman Gonzalez fights. We've seen more Canelo fights. We watched Canelo grow up in front of us. We've seen more of his fights. We watched Floyd's whole career from the Olympics. So to us, those resonate more than Roman Gonzalez. Now, Roman Gonzalez, will be revealed a little bit later because you guys are going to be shocked where I have him on my pound-for-pound list. But for Fighter of the Year at this point in time, based off, you put him against those 3, just for Fighter off accomplishments, I don't think I'm ready to include him in there. Only because me personally, I've seen few Roman Gonzalez fights, but out of his 40 wins, 40 plus, I have not seen as many as Canelo. I have not seen as many as Floyd, and I have not seen as many as Triple G. And maybe that's just my own ignorance, but I do like him, and you'll see where I have him on my pound-for-pound list. But go ahead. If I had to choose one, though, if I had to choose one
guy now, just one.
One guy would have to be Floyd Mayweather, not because it has nothing to do with race, creed, or religion, or money. It really has everything to do with his accomplishments. And, it was funny, man, because no matter how, no matter what we think about the outcome, okay, the guy beat the guy that everybody said he was afraid of. It was basically, the last thing standing in his way in terms of his era. Now you can go in and say, oh, he should have fought this guy, he should have fought this guy. Yeah, there's 1,000 people that should have, could have, would have fought this guy. But, based off accomplishments, he beat him. And there were still some people at the end of the day that still picked Floyd to lose to Pacquiao. Like, they still picked him to lose. And then after he won, it was so crazy because he told you how he was going to win. You know, years ago, they basically said, oh, his shoulder was hurting. And, Bob and those guys that come out and say, hey, it really wasn't, da-da-da-da-da-da, but he won. He's fighter of the year, based off of that, Based on, and it's clearly because of, the person he beat and his accomplishments. We I hate to say this, but you owe it to cats like that go out with a fight like that. Now, granted, if he retired on Andre Berto, and let's just say he retired on like a Danny Garcia and Andre Berto, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. He'd probably be kicked out the boat right now.
Right. All right, Roberto, you heard the names. You know how many spots we got on the raft. Who you going with?
I agree with what Ryder Dyer was saying, about as far as, like, when I was even mentioning the Floyd-Pacquiao fight, as far as, I guess the term, as far as not living up to the hype, I mean, in one way it could look like that, but at the same time, like, Floyd did what he had to do in that fight. I mean, at the same time, he did neutralize a fighter that is, like, incredibly hard to neutralize. So it's like you got to give him his just due. As I think, like, we all did. I mean, there's people that kind of, they'll argue as far as, why the fight was, the way it was. I mean, I'm on the boat of, it being more Pacquiao's problem than Floyd's because, we saw Floyd Mayweather. That's how he fights. So, I mean, I give him that credit. My answer might be the unpopular one, but I mean, I'll give my reasoning to it, and it's Triple G.
Yeah.
Number one, I mean, obviously, the thing with me is, obviously, I like a fighter, and I like fighters who stay busy. And, we did get to see him 3 times. Now, the thing about it is there's going to be debate as far as, like, the level of competition he faced. The thing about it, and this is where, like, I agree with what Ryder Dyer is saying as far as Floyd beating Pacquiao and beating, you're beating a guy who's had those accomplishments, it was like 8, 9 world titles, 8 different weight classes. I mean, you got to give him the dap. I think for Triple G, to me, it's kind of a situation where I look at it where I'm like, okay, granted, he went into all of these fights the favorite, going in. But, when you look at a guy like Martin Murray, who had a very questionable draw against Felix Sturm, and then a questionable loss to Sergio Martinez, there's a guy who's never dominated and was never dropped. And, Golovkin went in there and totally decimated him, dropping him and then eventually stopping him. And then obviously with Willie Monroe, I think a lot of us knew that outcome. It seemed somewhat of, I guess you would call a stay busy fight in a sense. And then with Lemieux, the whole pay-per-view situation, wasn't great at the box office, but it was a deal where it was the number 3 ranked middleweight in the world and the IBF title holder. So, it was good to see a unification fight. And that was another situation where he dominated him and stopped another title holder. So at least from that standpoint, I put him in the realm of those guys mentioned as fighter of the year. I mean, with Canelo, in hindsight, I mean, I guess like people would compare because I saw some people today comparing Floyd and Canelo because Sports Illustrated I think anointed Floyd and ESPN anointed Canelo, and then there was the argument of like, well, who had the better year as far as like competition, and I guess you can make an argument for that, but at least as far as how I viewed it, I would go with Triple G. If you had Mayweather, I wouldn't really argue that more than I would argue Canelo. But, I mean, that's just kind of the way I saw it.
Well, there you have it. And
And I'm glad that you guys, took different perspectives on it. It just goes to show how diversified we are here. We all got different opinions, and I don't think nobody would argue with either answer that you guys provided. And I gave you the guys. I pulled those lists from several different boxing publications and some main publications like Sports Illustrated and ESPN, even though they cover boxing, the LA Times and stuff like that of those names that kept popping up today. Our last segment, it's not really a segment. It's a pound for pound. Our pound for pound list. The way I'm going to do it is, obviously, the ring is supposed to be the reference for this stuff. They actually kind of started the whole pound for pound ranking thing, in their magazine many moons ago. De La Hoya, as we know, his company took over the magazine, so you got to take some of these names with a grain of salt with the vested interest in some of these names. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from number 10. This is how we're going to do this. I'm going to start from number 10 on who they have, and then you can say, if you guys collectively can be like, I would rather put fighter X there. We'll put that person there, then we'll move up to each number until we get to number 1. And, we'll just do it like that, and then we'll recap it. So for number 10, Ring Magazine, they have Timothy Bradley listed as the 10th best fighter in the world right now. Agree or disagree? And who would you put there if you disagree?
I don't know.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Roberto.
No. I mean, I'm kind of like, I'm on the fence with that. Like, I he might be all right at 10, but I don't know.
Yeah, he deserves to be a little bit higher based off, because let's think about it. Floyd is out. That's just the obvious. Floyd, there's two people that are out. It's Floyd and Klitschko. Let's just put that to bed. They're out. So Tim Bradley is in there. I don't know about 10 though. He might be higher than 10.
So who would you put at number 10, Rada?
You're gonna laugh. It would be somebody like a Terrence Crawford or Lomachenko.
Lomachenko?
Mm-hmm.
You good with that, Roberto?
Crawford, I guess I could see. I mean, I'm looking at it here as far as where the ring has him right now.
Mm-hmm.
But Crawford, I kind of could see around the 9 or 10 area. I mean, I kind of agree with that. I mean, but yeah, I mean, the thing with Bradley is we forget. I mean, we talked about this on a previous show. As far as these streak of wins, mind you, he's had, and then he's had that one draw, but the beatings he's taken in these fights. But when you look back, he's only lost one fight.
You forget that, right? I know.
Right? So I mean, I agree with that. I mean, that's a good point, Ride or Die. I mean, I kind of lost touch with that as far as Bradley's concerned. I mean, I guess it's with me, it's more of a situation how he's looked against the Diego Chavez of the world.
Yeah,
and you know what, though? But when you look at that, and that's cool, but when you look at that, the caveat to me is Floyd and Klitschko are no longer in there, so there's more room where some of these guys can move up.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
I got you. I got you. You had to, some of these guys, it's all right, their body versus his body, you're going to go with Bradley's, over a guy that just had one good fight this year, and you're going to put him on the top 10 list. I got you. So what do you guys want to do? You're going to move Bradley up?
We're definitely moving Bradley. There's no way Bradley.
I would move Bradley up. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I do.
So where you want to put him at? 9, 8?
I mean, what would you say, Roberto?
I would say
6?
7 or 8. You said 6 or. I mean, there's still some fighters we got to talk about, but
right. All right. So for the sake of the number,
I would say if you put him at 7, I'd be all right with that.
Yeah,
how about we'll put them in the hopper. We'll leave them aside until we get up to that number. We'll bring them back. All right, so number 10, what did you guys say again? I forget. Who did you say for number 10? Who you want to put there?
I mean, the only person I can think of is I say either Terrence Crawford or Lomachenko, but, I mean, we can argue with excuse me, we can argue about that, too. I mean, what would you say, Roberto?
I mean, that's tough, man, because it's when you're talking about number 10, you're starting to talk about like fighters that are like
at the door.
board. I mean, there's some people. Yeah. There's some people that have Errol Spence at number 10, pound for
pound.
Are you
serious?
Yeah, and I'm like, damn.
Oh man.
You know,
is this a PBC website or it's not? Was it fight?
But yeah, I mean, it goes back to our point as far as like the putting people on the pedestal too early. But I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, that's kind of a tough one. I mean, we start thinking about like what about guys like Sean Porter or what about guys like I don't know, because it's like
and Keith Thurman don't belong in anybody's top 10 at this point in time. When you look at the other names, like when you look at like Gonzalez, Kovalev, Golovkin, Ward, Rigondeaux, Crawford, Pacquiao, Alvarez, Bradley, Lomachenko, like those guys don't belong in those 10 spots. I'm sorry, they just don't. Maybe if one of them fight each other, we're cool. But I mean, here's a guy like when people forget about Lomachenko, man. I mean, here's a guy, man, that can fight. But man, he beat Gary Russell. Man, people picking Gary Russell the next best thing. This guy, they slept on his amateur career. This guy's pretty much good. He's really good. He only has 5 fights.
All right. So I mean, what do you guys want to do? I mean, just so we can move on to the next number.
I'm gonna fight y'all for not putting. I don't care where y'all put them. I'm gonna fight y'all if y'all put Thurman or Porter in your top 10. I'm gonna fight you. I'm really gonna fight y'all.
We're gonna treat this like a one-on-one basketball game. So you gave him this foul, you owe him the next one. You gave him that call. All right. So All right. So Lomachenko, we're gonna put Lomachenko at number 10. All right. So at number 9, they got and Roberto just said his name. Shinsuke
Yamanaka.
Shinsuke Yamanaka at number 9. Yay or nay? Do y'all want to? How do y'all feel about that?
It's Roberto's.
I mean, again, this is another fighter that I don't think like a lot of us have seen much of.
Right.
For those, he's a WBC bantamweight champion.
Right.
And when we think of bantamweights, I mean, the one guy that comes to our mind obviously is Guillermo Rigondeaux, but because we've obviously seen a lot more of him. But again, man, like when you're talking about pound for pound, I mean, you're talking about like a list of fighters that like Ride or Die was just mentioning. See, like number 9, like I'm probably starting to put Canelo there. Like that's probably somewhere like where I'll start with, the upper echelon of the names. But
I like that.
I mean, again,
actually, yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that Ride or Die Canelo at number 9?
I'm good with that.
So we're gonna move Shinsuke out of there. So if he's not at number 9, he's not on the list. So
And that only, and you know what? Let's just say this, to our fans. Let's put this out there, a disclaimer. It's almost like Roberto said. Let's just see a little bit more of him before we kind of like kick him out a little bit. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Before we kick him out the bed, or put him in the bed rather. Let's or put him in the house rather. Let's just find out who this guy really is. And I'm sure with Klitschko and with Floyd going, we're going to find out more about this guy in the next year. So, I'll reserve that and just say, hey, if he needs to be there, it's probably due to our ignorance, let's just say. But at this point in time, he doesn't deserve to be there over Canelo.
And keep in mind, all right, so Canelo is number 9. Now, number 8 is, we got a vacant spot here because they had Canelo at number 8 on the Ring Magazine. They being Ring Magazine. So we got 8 empty. So you guys got an empty spot here.
See, like to me, I might make a switch. I think I might put who do we put at 9? Canelo, right?
We put Canelo at 9. You got Lomachenko
Ring has
at
him
10.
at 8. Ring has him at 8. I might put Ride or Die might not like this, but I might put Crawford at 9, and I'll keep Canelo at 8.
I'm okay with that.
You good with that, Ride or Die?
I'm good with that. I mean, you know, when you look at it,
Or as body of work, you gotta go with Canelo on that. You know,
yeah, I mean, body of work, man, you got to look at that. I mean, you know, he probably has a great upside, but I'm okay with what you said, Terrence Crawford.
Yeah,
I would put him at 9.
Yeah, and Canelo, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Okay,
so
we just got to figure number 10.
10. Who do you got? So you're not doing Lomachenko at 10?
I mean, I personally do. I don't know what.
I mean, you know what? You know what? Let's go with it. I'm cool with that.
All right. So Lomachenko at 10. 9, you got Terrence Crawford. 8, you got Canelo Alvarez.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So okay. All right. So number
7,
7.
I'm telling you right now, is Manny Pacquiao. I agree with that.
Yeah.
You're right.
And I agree with that. Yeah. I'm all for that.
So you're gonna stay with Manny Pacquiao, number 7.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, cool. That's easy then. All right, now we got a vacant spot again because Terrence. I'm shocked that they got Terrence Crawford ranked this high, but they have him at number 6.
Now, would you put Rigondeaux there?
No, not that low. And I don't care that hasn't been fighting. No way he should be that way.
Then put Andre Ward there.
No, not him either. You can't put those type of fighters that low. I don't care if they're inactive or not. They should never be underneath the top 5. Now, anywhere in the 5, they can go anywhere there, but I don't think they should ever be beneath 5.
All right,
I just think it's a disservice to the sport if you do that.
Let me tell you something real fast, and this is my thinking. And you know, now mind you, Roberto said eloquently that Ride or Die loves Andre Ward. I do. Okay. What year did he have this year?
Paul Smith.
Okay.
Help me out, Roberto. What else did he do this year?
Exactly.
Is that it? He only had one fight? Oh, he was in Creed. Danny Stuntman Willer. He knocked out.
That's right. He was in Creed.
Yeah. So
he knocked out Baby Creed in 2 rounds.
So my point is, you're gonna give somebody something off of. That's my problem. Like, I don't mind. I mean, if it were up to me, Andre Ward would be number 1. Because we know the guy.
He was number 1. I mean, he was kind of number. He was number 2.
Number 2.
He
was number 2. But
Rigondeaux was 3.
But here's a guy that hasn't fought in 13. But here's my point. He hasn't fought in 13 months. Y'all gonna give him top 5. Y'all give him top 5 over Kovalov, Gonzalez.
But we didn't get there yet. Kovalov and Triple G, we didn't get to them yet. They're on here. They're higher. We didn't get there yet. I'm just saying I can't put them beneath 5. I just think it would be a disservice if we did it, even though they've been inactive. But you can't put them beneath anything else.
So you tell me if I can't put Rigondeaux at 7 and Andre Ward at 7, and who you gonna put at 7?
Well, 7 we got Manny Pacquiao there.
I mean, I'm sorry, 6. If I can't put Andre Ward or Rigondeaux there,
it's up to y'all. Roberto, how do you feel about that? You putting
Rigondeaux?
Tough, man.
It's tough, man, because the thing. See, here's we could draw a parallel, right? When Floyd left the sport, right? How long did he leave? He left from 2007 to 2009, right?
2 years, yeah.
And he came back and he fought. Mind you, like everybody was bitching about the fight. I mean, even including myself, when he came back and fought Marquez. And mind you, this is also after Pacquiao knocked Hatton out. And Floyd goes in and dominates him, and he's holded back to the number 1 pound for pound status. Now, Paul Smith is no Marquez at all, but it's weird how that fight kind of just gets ignored. That we forget that Andre Ward actually had a fight this year, but
yeah.
At the same time, again, like we're years removed from the Super 6, and he fought Chad Dawson at 168. and whatever, people want to think about that. But, I mean, I think with Ward, man, I mean, he's been inactive for a while, but he hasn't fought really anybody in a while. And, we're talking about this Kovalev fight, but I'm thinking about, like, what's his next fight? Like, when are we going to see him in the ring against, there's talking about this fighter Barrera who, Abel Sanchez.
The Cuban guy?
Yeah. Who's undefeated as well, and
sounds dangerous to me, but I don't know.
I mean, but I think at this point for him, I mean that's a sway from the pound for pound list, but I mean I think with him, we all kind of were in agreement that like once Floyd retired,
he would take
over as far as number one status, with the notion that he would obviously still be fighting, but that obviously hasn't been happening. So at least for me, I'm kind of siding with Ride or Die here, where it's like even though Rigondeaux, like he's had issues trying to get fights, like even with him being said, he hasn't been that inactive,
right.
As much as he's been.
I got you.
You know what I mean?
All
So
right.
I guess by technicality, but are we number 6 right now?
Yeah, we're at number 6, so War will be at 6.
Man, I
just don't sound right? Yeah,
I hate to put Ward that low, but we're talking about guys like Kovalev, Golovkin, Rigondeaux, and Chocolatito, and it's man, I hate to do it, man, but like I think I'm gonna have to put him at number 6.
All right, man, it's all good. All right, so we got Ward at number 6. So at number 5, this may be easy for y'all. They got Rigondeaux there already at 5.
What do you think of that, Ride or Die?
I think that's warranted. Yeah,
I'm okay with that actually, because that's in the top 5. Yeah, and this is all in inactivity. That's why they're ranked so low.
Right.
They didn't really do anything this year.
Yeah, because we got to remember, too, and this is what I want everybody to remember, the pound-for-pound list is sort of like our
ranking.
Our Western Conference, standing. And
right,
our
NFC.
And hear me out real fast, because what happens is this stuff, when you deal with, like, ranking basketball teams or football teams, is basically done by their record. Their record, sometimes force, schedule. When you look at this boxing thing, it's standings. But remember, fights don't happen as often as games, but this list is ever evolving. So let's just say Andre Ward fights Kovalev, Lord willing, and he beats Kovalev. Who's to say that that doesn't catapult him to number 1? So we got to remember we got to remember this list is ever evolving. This is not, this is the end all be all. This is just based off of this year. This is based off of where we are right now. Now, if you were to come, maybe we do it more frequently. We talking March. We do it quarterly. Maybe we talk in March. This list is going to change. There are going to be people that are leaving. There are going to be people that are coming on. So I don't want us to get so hung up on. Well, I don't think we should get so hung up on where everybody is now, because the list this list is a working list. It can evolve. And it's all based off of, everything else. It's not like the NBA where we say, okay, the Warriors only have 1 loss, so obviously they're the number 1 team. Like, the only way you know that is because of their record. We can go by people's records, but we got to go with so many other caveats, man. So,
well, that's why I compared it to the power rankings like they do in the NFL. They do power rankings every week.
Mm-hmm. And NBA too, right?
Yeah, they all do them. And you know how it is, Ride or Die. Like, obviously Golden State would be number 1 every week because they just head and shoulders and better than everybody. But in a normal year where San Antonio may dominate for 2 weeks or a week, let's just say they do a week thing, and then the following week the Clippers do it. But this year it's been one team dominating basically, and that's Golden State. So with this list, with the pound for pound list, you got to go with, like you said, like what's the now? Who's doing what right now? Now next year or not even next year. Well, next year technically, but in a month or 2 from now, this list is going to change because somebody either going to lose
or somebody's going to do something miraculously and change it. So it's literally temporary. It's like a filling in the tooth. Nothing is permanent here with this list. So it's all good. It just didn't sound right, but put it in perspective with the inactivity, it's all good. You know what I mean? But so let's move on for the sake of time here. So where we at? Number 5 is Rigondeaux.
Yeah.
What about number 4? Now they got Ward here at 4, so we already put Ward at 6. So who you gonna put at 4?
I mean, who would you put Roberto at 4? I mean, we got to put Tim Bradley there.
So about to say one guy that's in the hopper still is Bradley because you guys don't have him anywhere.
No,
yeah,
no,
I mean,
I'm. Wait, well, we didn't put Bradley anywhere, did we?
Yeah,
no, we misplaced him. I mean, you got to put Bradley there.
You know what? Yes. Yeah, I agree because
Unless you
it comes.
I'm sorry.
Unless you no, go ahead. Who are you gonna replace him?
No, unless we change Bradley and flip flop him, with a Rigondeaux or Ward, like those 3 positions could be subjective if you want to.
Why don't you move Rigondeaux up and drop Bradley down? Since Rigondeaux has been a little bit more active than Ward.
What do you think, Roberto?
I mean, yeah, you could do that too. So you put Bradley at 5?
And put Rigondeaux at 4? Is that what you're saying, Coach Ernie?
Yeah.
Because I have Ward at 6.
Yeah.
So then there's Brad. Then it would be Bradley.
Bradley then Rigondeaux.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. So let's move us up to number 3, which is Triple G. They have Triple G at number 3.
To me, it's. I think you can flip flop between him and Kovalev because Kovalev's number 2.
Right, you got Kovalev number 2.
You could flip. I mean, yeah, you could flip flop, but but then you look at, when you start getting down to, I guess resume, and then when you look at, who's holding the straps. I mean, we forget, man. Like Kovalev's just one strap missing.
That's how I feel about it.
And let me
I
tell you
told a lot
something.
of guys that off air. Like I just didn't feel like Roman Gonzalez. It just is my personal opinion. Had a better body of work right now than Sergey Kovalev. But I'll let you guys duke it out.
No, but I'm gonna tell you something. With Kovalev to Roberto's point, the one thing I'm gonna say is Triple G is the sexy pick. Kovalev to me would be the pick for number 2, only because when you look at him, here's a guy that even though he did it last year, and when we talk about body of work, he beat Bernard Hopkins, man. I mean,
right.
He
right.
dogged Bernard Hopkins. Let me
Right.
rephrase that. He dogged Bernard Hopkins. And then you talk about how Kovalev, beat David Lemieux. Here's a guy who Pascal has never been knocked out before. He killed Pascal. So
He's not an easy guy to look good against.
Was not the Wild Cowboy is not easy to look good against. So if you're going to base it off of this sexy pick, here's the situation. And I want to put this out to you guys. Triple G has 34. If you want to do a strength of schedule, Triple G has 34 wins and 31 knockouts. Kovalev has 28 wins and 25 knockouts, but he beat Bernard Hopkins and knocked out Jean Pascal. Triple G, feasted on a lot of these middleweights, and it's not his fault because, people are running from the good boy, but
the good boy. He's a good boy.
He's a good boy, but you got to remember, the other thing is that if we're going to say, okay, look how he beat Lemieux, then look at how Kovalev beat Pascal. So I would have to go Kovalev number 2, Triple G number 3, only because I'm looking at those fights in particular, and I'm just like, man, this guy is an animal. They're both animals, but who's been killing the bigger prey? The person who's been killing the bigger prey at this point in time is Kovalov. They're both animals, though.
Roberto?
No, I agree with that. I really, you can give different reasons. But I agree with that. I think the thing with Golovkin is, at least now, like, he's fighting whoever's available. But
it's not his fault. It's like the 3 is not his fault almost. It's like it's not the fault.
And even with Kovalev, even with Kovalev, he's kind of in the same predicament too, where I like there. Him and him and Fonfara, but with the Hopkins fight, man, we all picked Hopkins to win, right?
Right. Kovalov's the truth, man. Like, it dude's a fight. Like, this isn't just some
and
strong
I think also
dude
too, like, and also too, it's something we didn't touch on as far as best of, but we got to give it up to John David Jackson, man. As far as trainers are concerned,
right. I know we excluded that from the list, but
what
a year he's having.
Just talking about Kovalev, but I honestly I don't have a problem with the 2 or 3. That's. I think with Golovkin, the hope next year is he fights Canelo, but to answer or to ask this question in relation to if Andre Ward were to beat Kovalev, would he be number 1? If Golovkin beat Canelo, would you put him at number 1?
Right.
I would definitely put Triple G at number 1 if he beat Canelo, because believe it or not, Canelo, man, is on some people's list as pound for pound and fighter of the year.
BoxRec has him number 1.
I saw that he was number 1. And that's fanfare. Whatever, that's all good. So number 1 is Roman Gonzalez.
Yeah, what? Let's not knock people. Let's not knock people because they fight at lower weight classes.
No, I don't think it has nothing to do with that.
We can look at his schedule. You say, or what I call schedule, but his record: 44 wins, 38 knockouts. But the thing about it, man, is that when you put your stamp of approval on somebody, man, just look at consistency, man.
Okay. That's well put.
Look at consistency, man, and look at who he's done against. Last fight was against Brian Villora. What? Yeah. It's not a cupcake, man.
Yeah, we watched that. I was on the undercard of I forget which fight, but yeah.
Is he a household name?
Was it a Triple G fight? Is it a Triple G fight, Roberto?
It was the undercard of the Lemieux Triple G fight.
Okay.
I agree. Yeah, no, yeah. He Ride or Die is. He hit it on the head. He's just very consistent, And the thing is like, unless you're a hardcore fan, you don't see a lot of the lower weight classes. That's why I was coming up, as a young kid. My favorite fighter was Michael Carbajal. And we used to I used to watch him fight all the time. And
but ain't that funny though?
Yeah, and that's the thing though. But it's like. It's funny how things kind of work out now where, we're starting to see these outlets where like somebody like Chocolatito maybe like a few years ago wouldn't have been featured on the undercard of a Golovkin fight, no matter like how people thought the fight did on pay-per-view. I think what people got to remember when it comes to that, the numbers don't always tell the number of how many people actually watch, because, people stream and people, they find a way to watch a fight, So I think what they've been doing with him is featuring him with Golovkin because of the fact that they got somewhat of similar styles, or it's at least their approach. But yeah, man, look, if you go down the line, man, he started as a pro in 2005, and he's been a busy fighter. Figure, man, in 2014, he had like 3-4 fights And then this year he had 3 fights. You know, and the thing is, that's the thing, like, with me, like, I like fighters who are busy, you know, because we've been too accustomed of, like, seeing these guys that are just fighting, like, once a year and maybe, or twice a year, but, you know, one of the fights, it'll be, like, you know, somewhat of a, you know, mediocre fight. But at the same time, man, I mean, you know, he's, regardless of that, just his skill-wise, he's a really good fighter. You know, he's a fun guy to watch. He does a lot of things right, you know, and he's somewhat, you know, I you know, we still want to see him fight, whether he goes up to 115 or, you know, they entertain that whole Rigondeaux going to 118 fight. I mean, we'll see what happens with him, but I mean, I agree with Ride or Die, man. I mean, he's just a consistent fighter, and, you know, he's just been very dominant, and, you know, he's, you know, like, you know, what's his record? 44-0, right? 38 knockouts.
Yeah.
I mean, that says it all.
Well, there you have it. That's our list, pound for pound. You know, we was like 3 scientists, you know, in a lab, you know, breaking this down tonight, and we'll put out the list.
Do you guys have this, Roberto? I'm sorry, real fast. Will you be able to put this list up later on this week?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. So we'll put it up on Instagram, our pound for pound list, just so people can, you know, react to it, you know. Let us know what your thoughts, because I'm sure people are going to have differences of opinion. We love the interaction. Please interact with us. But this was a really good show. We got a lot covered. We're really trying to figure out a way, and hopefully we'll be able to get the show put up on one of the outlets like YouTube. We're going to figure out some ways to just kind of break this down so, you know, people can get a chance to listen to the podcast. But we went over a lot, man. We had a really great year in boxing. We got some big things coming up for the boxing podcast. I don't want to really reveal them yet, but you know, we're moving on to bigger and better things is all I'm going to say. And you know, we're just beginning. You know, we got a lot we're going to be breaking down and discussing. We're going to get back to having people on the show, different guests and different trainers. Thankfully for us, being in Philadelphia, we have access to a lot of fighters and trainers, so that's not a problem. We also got some people that's friends of the show that we can just get on anytime we want. So we're just going to get back into that as well. Again, I want to thank everybody for supporting us. We really, again, we greatly appreciate it. You know, this is kind of probably like our first year in a while that we've been as consistent as we've been, you know, just doing shows every week, man. You know, and that come from having a thorough team. You know, shout out to Roberto, you know, who's been holding the fort down some weeks when, you know, we couldn't get in here. And, you know, we're just fortunate to have a good team to do what we like to do, and that's talk about the sport of boxing. And we're looking forward to a big and better 2016. Everybody, please be safe, whatever it is you're going to do. I don't like preaching, but if you're going to drink, try to find a party to hang out at. That's probably the best bet. And Happy New Year to everybody, man. And Happy New Year to you, my brothers, Ride or Die and Roberto. And, you know, we'll be back next Tuesday, man, right back at it like we never left. So that's our show for tonight, 2015 recap. This is Guard Your Girl Boxing. Hit us up at Guard Your Girl Boxing on Instagram. Hit my man Roberto Flack up, Roberto_Flack on the gram, as well as all other social media outlets out there. And we'll see everybody next Tuesday night at 9:30. Peace.